Have you ever had the happiest day of your life destroyed in a single sentence? Not by a stranger, not by an enemy, but by your own mother. Because that's exactly what happened to me. And what happened next exposed a family secret that had been hidden for more than 20 years. A secret so devastating that my mother lost everyone she had spent years manipulating. My name is Sarah Bennett. I was 29 years old on the day I got married. And until that afternoon, I still believed my mother loved me. Maybe not equally, maybe not perfectly, but enough. At least that's what I told myself. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs years earlier. My mother had always favored my younger sister, Rachel. If Rachel broke something, I got blamed. If Rachel lied, I was punished. If Rachel succeeded, my mother celebrated. If I succeeded, she found a reason to criticize me. When I graduated college with honors, my mother asked why I wasn't first in my class. When I bought my first home, she complained about the neighborhood. When I started my own consulting business, she said it wouldn't last. Nothing was ever enough. But I kept trying. Because children spend years chasing love that should have been given freely. Then I met Ethan, the man who would become my husband. The first person who made me realize I wasn't difficult to love. Ethan was calm, kind, patient. The complete opposite of the chaos I'd grown up with. For 3 years we built a life together, and eventually he proposed. The moment should have been perfect. But my mother's reaction was strange. She forced a smile, congratulated us, then immediately asked one question. How much is the ring worth? At the time, I ignored it. I wish I hadn't. Because over the next few months, she became increasingly involved in the wedding. Too involved. She wanted control over everything, the venue, the guest list, the decorations, even my dress. Whenever I disagreed, she acted offended. Whenever I made a decision myself, she accused me of excluding her. Still, I tried to keep the peace, because I didn't want drama, not at my wedding. Unfortunately, my mother had other plans. The wedding day arrived. Everything was beautiful. The weather was perfect. The venue looked incredible, and for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. As guests arrived, laughter filled the room. Friends reunited, family members chatted, music played softly. For a few hours, everything felt normal. Then the reception began. About halfway through dinner, Ethan's grandmother approached the microphone. She was 82 years old, sharp as ever, loved by everyone. She wanted to give a short speech. The room immediately quieted. She smiled warmly, raised her glass, and began speaking. Then suddenly, my mother stood up. At first I thought she was heading toward the restroom. She wasn't. She walked directly toward the center of the room, toward the microphone, toward hundreds of guests. My stomach tightened. Something felt wrong, very wrong. My mother grabbed the microphone from Ethan's grandmother. The room went silent, completely silent. Then she pointed directly at me and shouted, "Before this wedding goes any further, everyone deserves to know the truth." I froze. The entire room stared. "What truth?" Ethan asked. My mother's face was filled with dramatic outrage. Then she said the words that changed everything. "Your bride is a thief." The room exploded with whispers. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't even process what I'd just heard. "What?" My voice barely came out. My mother turned toward the crowd. "She's been stealing from this family for years." Gasps spread across the room. Guests looked confused, shocked, uncomfortable. My sister Rachel immediately began crying, almost on cue. That should have been my first clue. My mother continued. "She stole jewelry." Another gasp. "She stole money." More whispers. "She's lied to all of you." The room felt like it was spinning. I looked at Ethan. His face wasn't angry. It was confused, because none of this made sense, not one word. Then my mother reached into her purse and pulled out a velvet jewelry box, a familiar jewelry box. My heart dropped, because I immediately recognized it. It belonged to Ethan's grandmother, the elderly woman standing just a few feet away. My mother dramatically opened the box. The room gasped again. Inside was an expensive diamond bracelet, one that had supposedly disappeared several days earlier. My mother's voice echoed through the hall. "We found this in Sarah's wedding bag." The room erupted. Guests began whispering. Some looked horrified. Others looked skeptical. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because I had never seen that bracelet in my life. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan's grandmother stepped forward, slowly, calmly, without panic. Unlike everyone else in the room, she looked directly at my mother, then at the bracelet, then at me, and smiled. A strange smile. The kind of smile people make when they already know something you don't. "That's interesting," she said quietly. My mother looked confident, almost victorious. But Ethan's grandmother wasn't looking at the bracelet anymore. She was looking at an elderly man sitting quietly near the back of the room. A retired accountant named Mr. Lawson, one of her oldest friends. He slowly reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black notepad. The moment he opened it, everything changed. Because what was written inside that notepad was about to destroy the lie my mother had spent months preparing. The entire reception hall was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even looked away. My mother stood proudly in the center of the room, holding the bracelet, certain she had won, certain she had finally destroyed me. Then Mr. Lawson opened his small black notepad. At first, nobody understood why. He wasn't a police officer. He wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't a private investigator. He was simply an 83-year-old retired accountant. But what most people didn't know was that Mr. Lawson wrote everything down. Everything. Appointments, meetings, conversations, dates, times, details, for nearly 40 years. Ethan's grandmother smiled. "Please read your note from last Thursday." Mr. Lawson adjusted his glasses, turned several pages, and began reading. Thursday, 3:14 p.m. The room became completely still. Margaret Bennett arrived at my house. My mother immediately froze. Margaret, her name. Mr. Lawson continued reading. Margaret requested access to the reception hall storage room. My mother's face lost color. For the first time, she looked nervous. Margaret stated she needed to leave a surprise gift for the bride. Guests exchanged confused looks. Then Mr. Lawson continued. I personally watched her place a small velvet jewelry box inside a white wedding bag. The room exploded. Gasps echoed everywhere. Several people stood up. My mother immediately shook her head. That's not true. But her voice lacked confidence. For the first time all evening, she sounded scared. Mr. Lawson calmly flipped another page. I also recorded security access times because the venue manager requested them. He held up another piece of paper. Only one person entered that storage room between 3:00 p.m. and 4:00 p.m. Everyone already knew the answer. My mother. The same woman accusing me of theft. The same woman claiming she found the bracelet in my bag. The same woman who supposedly wanted justice. Suddenly, Ethan's grandmother spoke. Would you like me to explain why I asked Mr. Lawson to watch the room? Nobody answered, because everyone wanted the same thing. The truth. She slowly looked at my mother. Because this isn't the first time you've done something like this. The room froze. My mother looked horrified. Then Ethan's grandmother revealed something nobody expected. Months earlier, several small items had mysteriously disappeared during family gatherings. A watch, a bracelet, an envelope containing cash. Each time, the missing item somehow appeared near someone my mother disliked. And each time, my mother had been the person who discovered it. The pattern was obvious now, but nobody had noticed before, because nobody expected a grandmother to manufacture evidence. The whispers grew louder, much louder. Guests were no longer looking at me. They were staring directly at my mother. Then Ethan finally stood up. My husband looked calm, dangerously calm, the kind of calm that appears right before a truth destroys everything. Mom. He wasn't speaking to my mother. He was speaking to his mother. Then he pointed toward Rachel, my sister. Why is she crying? Everyone turned. Rachel immediately looked away. Too late. Ethan had noticed something nobody else had. Rachel wasn't shocked. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't confused. She looked guilty. Very guilty. Then Ethan asked the question that changed everything. Rachel, when exactly did you learn about the bracelet? Silence. Pure silence. Rachel couldn't answer, because there was no good answer. Then Ethan asked again. How did you know it was a bracelet? The room exploded, because my mother had never mentioned what item had supposedly been stolen. Not once. She only called me a thief. She never identified the missing item. Yet somehow, Rachel already knew. My sister's face turned white. Everyone noticed. Every single person. Then came the biggest mistake of her life. Rachel looked toward my mother, just for a second, but that second was enough. Everyone saw it. Everyone. She wasn't looking for support. She was looking for instructions. And suddenly the entire room understood. This wasn't one person's plan. It was two, mother and daughter, working together, against me, at my own wedding. My father slowly sat down. His face looked broken, because reality was finally catching up to him. For years he had defended them. For years he ignored warning signs. For years he believed whatever they told him. Now he was watching the truth collapse around them. Then something happened that nobody expected. Rachel started crying. Real crying. Not the dramatic tears from earlier. Actual panic. Actual fear. And then she whispered, Mom said nobody would find out. The room went dead silent. Absolutely silent. My mother closed her eyes. Because she knew. It was over. Everything was over. But the worst revelation was still coming. Because hidden inside that same black notepad, Mr. Lawson had written something else. Something connected to a secret my mother had hidden for more than 20 years. A secret that would destroy her reputation forever. And when that secret came out, even my father would walk away. The room was silent. Not ordinary silence. The kind of silence that happens when people realize they're watching someone's entire life fall apart. My mother stood frozen. Rachel was crying. My father looked completely lost. And Mr. Lawson still hadn't closed his notepad. That was the part nobody noticed. Everyone thought the story was over. Everyone thought the bracelet was the scandal. It wasn't. The bracelet was only the beginning. Mr. Lawson adjusted his glasses, then slowly turned another page. I believe there's one more note relevant to today's events. My mother's face immediately changed. For the first time all evening, she looked terrified. Not embarrassed, not nervous, terrified. Please stop, she whispered. Nobody moved. Nobody listened. For too many years, the truth had been ignored. Now it was finally speaking. Mr. Lawson looked toward Ethan's grandmother. She quietly nodded. Then he began reading. June 14th, 21 years ago. The room became still. 21 years? People exchanged confused looks. Even I didn't understand. Then he continued. Margaret Bennett visited my office seeking financial advice. My mother closed her eyes. Margaret stated she intended to transfer inheritance assets exclusively to Rachel. The room frowned. What inheritance? Then he continued. Margaret expressed concern that Sarah might someday discover documents related to the inheritance. I felt my stomach drop. Inheritance? What inheritance? I looked at my father. His face had gone completely pale, because apparently, he didn't know either. Then came the sentence that changed everything. The sentence hidden inside that notepad for more than 2 decades. Margaret stated that Sarah must never learn she was the primary beneficiary named by her grandfather. The room exploded. Gasps echoed everywhere. Several guests actually stood up. My father nearly fell back into his chair. What? His voice cracked. What did you just say? Mr. Lawson calmly repeated it. Sarah was originally the primary beneficiary. I couldn't breathe. My grandfather, the one person who had always believed in me, the one person who died when I was 8, The one person my mother always claimed left everything equally. Apparently he hadn't. The truth was much worse. He had left the majority of his estate to me. Not Rachel. Me. My father stared directly at my mother. Tell me he's lying. She couldn't, because he wasn't. For 21 years, she had hidden it. For 21 years, she had rewritten the story. For 21 years, she had convinced everyone Rachel deserved everything, and nobody questioned it. Then Rachel started crying harder, because she finally understood too. She wasn't the chosen child because she was special. She was the chosen child because my mother made her one, at my expense. My father slowly stood up. The anger in his eyes was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Not loud anger, quiet anger, the dangerous kind. You stole from her. My mother began shaking. I was protecting the family. No. His voice echoed through the reception hall. You were protecting yourself. Nobody disagreed, because everyone knew he was right. Then Ethan took my hand. For the first time all evening, I felt steady, safe, supported, loved, the exact opposite of how my mother wanted me to feel. Then Ethan looked around the room and smiled. Not because he was happy, because he understood something important. The truth had already won. No argument could change it. No excuse could hide it. No manipulation could erase it. Then Ethan's grandmother stood, raised her glass, and said something nobody would ever forget. A wedding is supposed to reveal love. She paused. Today, it revealed character. The room erupted into applause. Not for me, not for Ethan, for the truth that had finally been set free. Several guests came over to support us. Others quietly walked away from my mother, some forever. My father looked at her one last time, then slowly removed his wedding ring, placed it on the table, and walked away. The room went silent again, because everyone understood what it meant. After decades of lies, consequences had finally arrived. My mother started crying, but for the first time in my life, nobody rushed to comfort her. Nobody defended her. Nobody blamed someone else. She was finally alone with the choices she had made. Several hours later, the reception continued. Not perfectly, not normally, but honestly. And honestly was better, much better. Later that evening, Ethan and I shared our first dance as husband and wife. The room was beautiful. The music was soft. And for the first time all day, I smiled. Because despite everything, my mother failed. She tried to destroy my wedding. Instead, she destroyed her own lies. She called me a thief. But the truth revealed who had really been stealing all along. Stealing opportunities, stealing relationships, stealing trust. And eventually, the truth took everything back. If this story taught you anything, let it be this. The truth may be delayed, but it rarely stays buried forever. And sometimes, one sentence written in an old notebook can change an entire family's future. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more emotional family betrayal, shocking secrets, and powerful justice stories. Because the next story may be even more unbelievable than this one. The end.